After public outcry over their plan to charge San Diegans for every mile you drive in order to fund their transportation plan, Sandag says that they are still looking for alternative ways to fund the plan. But while they are searching for these new funding mechanisms, the per-mile tax is still part of the plan. Joining us now to talk about this is the mayor of San Marcos and Sandag board member Rebecca Jones. Madam Mayor, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Great
Coming in on a hot day.
It is. It's hot out there. And, you know, I have an electric vehicle.
Oh,
I'm
great.
worried about how I'm going to charge it.
Oh, that's right. I know. You'll have to wait till after 9 o'clock. Let's talk about this mileage. It seems like the mileage tax, first it was in the plan, and then it seemed like it was maybe out of the plan, and now it's back in the plan, and people are changing their mind on it. Where are we now, and what are people saying on the board?
Well, that's a good question, but let's go back a little ways, right? So as we were making this plan, and Sandag was working very hard on it, many of the board members, including myself, said, wait a minute, we are not supportive of a per-mile tax or fee, whatever you'd like to call it. It's not fair. It's actually a regressive fee, and it doesn't really hurt the wealthy. It hurts the low income and the middle class the most. So many of us were saying, no, let's take it out of the plan. And many of the board members, including the chair, Catherine Blakespear, and the first vice chair, which is Todd Gloria, they all along kept saying yes, yes, yes. Then a week
to keep it in?
Yes, to have it as part of the plan. And then what happened was 1 week before the actual vote on December 10th of 2021, they came forward and said, oh, no. And you know, this is interesting because it was because people were finding out about it and saying, oh, heck no, I'm not paying for that. And so they decided that they didn't want it as part of the plan. However, it was part of the plan. They voted on the plan, said yes, and then the very next vote on the agenda, same day, just a couple of minutes later, they said, okay, come back in 6 months, Sandag staff, with options for us to remove the road user charge. Fast forward 6 months, and by the way, during that 6 months, I kept saying, and many of the other board members kept saying, when is this coming back? When is this coming back? So in July 8th, it came back to the board, but yet there were no plans of actually taking out and options or alternatives. I would say that's a failure in leadership as to why there were no options or plans actually made at that point in time. But again, the Sandag staff said, hey, are we going to take this out? And the mayors, and Catherine Blakespear and Todd Gloria both said yes, yes. There was a vote, and so it was moved forward to come back in the spring. And interestingly enough, some of the board members, also including myself, sent a letter to CARB because we literally had a fictitious plan up at a state agency, and we said, wait a minute, you have a plan that has the road user charge as part of the funding for it, and yet there was no discussion of taking it out up at CARB. And so we sent a letter and said, wait a minute, this is in here. What are we going to do about this? And after my second email to CARB asking them what they had decided, then a letter was sent to Sandag, and our executive director, this is in August, actually wrote a letter to CARB saying, well, it's part of the funding, and we're going to be moving forward with it, which is against board direction.
So let me get a question in here. So it sounds like it's in right now.
It is. What
would have to happen for them to take it out? Can they just take it out, or do they have to find some other funding mechanism in order to replace that 3.5 cent tax?
Well, you would think that it would be just take it out and it's over, but it does change the greenhouse gas reductions. So all Sandag staff had to do during this time, if they actually were planning on taking it out, in my opinion, is that they would have done an analysis to find out what other measures, because it's very close. It's about a 0.4%, less than 0.5% difference of meeting our 19% greenhouse gas reductions with the road user charge out of the plan. So they could do that, but they have to come up with some other ideas. It could be bus stops. It could be a lot of different options, but they never gave those to us.
And then the other questions, which don't seem to be getting answered, is how do they have to track you? What if you live in San Diego and you go to Las Vegas? How do they know when you left the county? What if you live in Los Angeles and you come down to San Diego? Are you exempt because you live in Los Angeles? What about these people from Arizona? Is it just us who live here and drive here that get kind of penalized where everybody else doesn't? They're coming from out of town?
Yes, well, that's a very good question, but go back to your first point in that. You will be tracked. Okay, somehow they are going to have to follow where you're going and how they can charge you. And you know, we're the only county in the entire state of California that has an approved plan, because CARB did approve the plan based on erroneous information and based on a fictitious letter from our director that was against board direction. So I'm calling for our chair and vice chair, Todd Gloria and Catherine Blakespear, to send a big message, and that is our director cannot be insubordinate and go against everything that we voted on at the board level and decisions that are going to hurt San Diego County residents. It's just not right.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are upset about this, especially if it goes through. All right, Mayor, good to see you. Mayor Rebecca Jones, thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.